South Korea, the U.S. and Japan held their first inaugural industry ministerial meeting on Wednesday to seek ways to boost trilateral cooperation on supply chains and economic security. Now, what can the three sides get from each other? We're joined by Professor Hee-dong this morning. Welcome back, Professor Yang.
Hello, good morning.
Let's talk about the timing of the trilateral discussion. I mean, what makes them think that it's necessary to hold such a meeting now?
Well, in terms of the timing, you can think about a couple of events. The first, last year in August, there were three president summit meetings in Camp David, and they agreed to hold a regular industry ministers meeting, and they create a new agenda through the meeting. And second, the trigger in terms of the timing is G7 leaders met in this month, and they agreed to strengthen and enhance the very resilient and reliable supply chains in many different aspects for the sake of very secure international economics. So those are major drivers for this meeting. But I can think about the two major, very tangible and real drivers behind this. I mean, the first one is they want to acquire very reliable and resilient supply chains in three aspects: semiconductors, core minerals, and clean energy. And second one is they want to control, very tightly control over advanced technology, particularly for the semiconductors. So these are the major economic drivers behind this the industry ministers meeting.
So the timing of their trilateral discussion can't be more appropriate. Now, it's the U.S. and Japan that South Korea is working on. Now, what makes the two sides, attractive partners for us hard to collaborate within securing supply chains and also economic security?
Well, we can talk about the two major reasons behind this three tripartite meeting. The first one is they want to control over the China's influence in the global politics and economy. And one of the major strong evidence behind this, the incentive is they declare that they do share the common values in favor of liberty and human rights and law. And those three major principles are pretty much opposite to control mechanism of China. And the second major liaison that tied of those three countries is, again, they want to keep alignment with the principles announced by G7 meeting leaders' statement. So they want to strengthen and acquire very reliable and resilient supply chains. And through this industry ministers meeting, they have come up with a very detailed agenda that have helped materialize and realize those very vague value systems proposed by G7 leaders meeting.
So common values and interests that are putting the three sides together this time. Now, what is there for South Korea, for us, to offer, and in what way could it possibly lead the trilateral cooperation in supply chain and trade?
Well, first of all, Korea is one of the very leading countries in semiconductors. Now, the same size of semiconductors is about $600 billion, even though there are many different, subdivisions. And Korea has competed very, seriously and very fiercely against the United States and China and Japan. And now China wants to take over their leaderships in the semiconductors that have threatened the national security of the United States and also Japan. So that is one of the major reasons why the United States has invited Korea and Japan to, take part in this tripartite meeting. The second one is Korea also has very strong leadership in the carbon neutrality. The carbon neutrality was the vision proposed by Paris Agreement in 2015. And everyone knows that by 2050, all this world will live in the net zero, in other words, carbon-free economy. And yes, an IPEF proposed by President Biden a couple of years ago, and Korea has come up with a very detailed agenda for this IPEF that consisted of 14 Asian countries, including Japan. So these are the major reasons why Korea has come up with the strong leadership for this tripartite industry ministers meeting.
Definitely. And also in a separate meeting, Seoul and Tokyo agreed to newly launch this working group on cooperation in the supply chain for clean hydrogen and ammonia. Let's talk about that.
Well, the major reason why the special meetings with those two countries is very important is we should keep in mind that Japan and Korea have very similar infrastructure and also the energy consumption patterns. In other words, if we have a problem in Korea raw materials, in core minerals, the same problem will occur in Japan as well. So both of Japan and Korea may have shared very serious concerns about the China's restricted control and also their ban on the export of the gallium and germanium announced in August last year, and also China declared they would control the export of the graphite in December. Those materials are very key core material ingredients for semiconductors. So, I mean, Japan and Korea may need to collaborate and cooperate very fiercely to release all these restricted control over core minerals, particularly for the semiconductors. And besides, both Japan and Korea have agreed on the principles of carbon neutrality, as I already mentioned. And they have pronounced very detailed plans, so-called the NDC, National Determined Contributions, that have provided the visions to control their carbon emissions. For example, Korea will reduce their carbon emissions by 40% compared to 2018 until 2030. And Japan also declared they want to reduce carbon emissions by 46% until 2030 compared to 2013. So in many different aspects, we can very clearly confirm that both Japan and Korea have come with lots of commonality in their future visions, particularly in their peer economies and the future industrial and also the international politics situations.
Right, from consumption to goals to achieve. Now, Professor Yang, before I let you go, you briefly touched upon this. The U.S. has been asking Seoul and Tokyo to join its efforts to, enforce export control measures to block China's access to advanced chip industry, technology, and AI. The question is, will South Korea and Tokyo join the U.S.?
Well, overall, I do believe that both Korea and Japan will join the efforts of the United States. But in terms of severity, I think the Korea may have come up with different attitudes against Japan, because even though the Korean companies have taken over major market shares in semiconductors, when it comes to semiconductor producing equipment, Korean companies are taking over very small portions in the global market, less than about the 3%. So that's why, again, our Minister of Industries have declared that, we may be very hesitant not to export the semiconductor equipment to China. So Japan and Korea, in principle, may share these same concerns and principles of the United States, but when it comes to the very detailed agenda, Korea may be a little hesitant than Japan to join the United States to control every aspects of advanced technologies to China.
All right, Professor Yang, it was a pleasure to have you with us today. We appreciate it, as always.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.